All right, how's it going? I got another video for you. So we're going to talk about the protest that happened in Michigan just the other day. But before we get into this, I kind of want to state that in the U.S. there's like 681,000 cases. There's 35,000 deaths, and they're saying that's how many is recovered. Also, when you look at the unemployment, we'll go into this. It says 22 million have lost their jobs over the past month. Real unemployment rate likely near an 18%. And it goes into saying another 5.2 million had filed for unemployment. And this is kind of like one of the largest numbers that's happened since the second highest number was 695,000 in October 1982. It's saying including the previous amount, there's about 7 million that was unemployed, or 7.1 million unemployed as of March 13th, so like right before all this happened. So that brings it up to around 29 million in total, but 22 in the last 4 weeks because of this event that's going on. So it's right around like 18%, and it says higher than any month since 1938. It said in the past 30 years, only once has it climbed to double digits, and that was like 10% in October 2009, like right towards the peak of the 2008 recession. So, but we'll get into, they had kind of a gridlock protest going on in Michigan, Lansing, Michigan, the other day. We're gonna go through this. It's through NBC News, and I was reading through it, and they keep throwing in like little, I mean, obviously it's NBC News, so they keep like throwing in like little jabs at like Republicans and like Trump supporters and all this stuff. Like, oh, it's all Trump supporters, and they hate being told what they do. But before we get into it, no matter if there is a virus, no matter if there is a contagious virus, that doesn't negate people's civil liberties. And basically, if there are like officers that are upholding unconstitutional orders, their badge should be stripped away from them, and also the government officials giving out those unlawful orders. My opinion. And there's a good chance that there's going to be a lot of civil cases. I don't know. There's going to be a lot of civil cases brought on in the next few months, I believe. I keep bringing up a story I haven't done yet, but there's a certain lawyer in, I think it's like LA, that's going to essentially sue the city or the state because of everything that's going on. Then if I say this word, you say that word in the videos, they kind of essentially, from what I've heard from other people, they will like essentially hide your video. So that's the reason I'm avoiding that word, because they just want like kind of mainstream media to kind of push their videos, even though they've shown to be wrong like pretty much the next day. Like if you like pay attention to like mainstream media, like a lot of things they say is like an obvious like misstep or misdirection, or they're like misleading the viewer or reader, or a lot of times it's like 180 degrees between what like actually happened. Then they have their own like slant. So I would advise to look into like kind of look at Fox News, look at NBC, look at CNN and all that stuff. But also, I think the big push, what needs to be happen to more people's like look at independent people online, because I've been watching like 10 Pull some. Then there's like other people online as well. I mean, the more sources you can get, the better the information possibly can be. All right. So this article was updated yesterday on the 16th. So it's saying thousands of demonstrators descended onto the state capitol in Lansing, Michigan on Wednesday to protest Governor Gretchen Whitmer's restrictive stay-at-home order, clogging the streets with their cars while scores ignored organizers' plea to stay inside their vehicles. Apparently, the people that organized it actually stayed inside their vehicles, but I guess it was like other people that showed up. They were like walking around and protesting. And I've also heard there's other states that's going to like I mentioned, North Carolina had done some protesting. Actually, somebody got arrested there for protesting. Ohio had some protests going on. But I also heard, like, kind of because of this gridlock thing that happened, that other states may start doing gridlock protests. So the protest dubbed Operation Gridlock was organized by the Michigan Conservative Coalition and the Michigan Freedom Fund, a DeVos family-linked conservative group. See, that's what I'm talking about, those little like jabs and ploys and like things they put in there that's not like really it's just like their opinion they're kind of like throwing into it, or their assumption. Protesters were encouraged to show up and cause traffic jams, honk, and bring signs to display from their cars. Organizers wrote on Facebook, "Do not park and walk, stay in your vehicles." Many ignored the demand. Demonstrators on foot were seen waving American, "Don't tread on me," and Trump campaign flags. At least 2 Confederate flags were spotted. And they bring this up too, that that's relevant. They want to like imply that, oh, they must be Trump supporting racists if they have Confederate flags there. Anybody, like, if you like grow up in the South, it's just part of your history. But like other parts of the U.S. don't seem to, and liberal cities as well don't seem to understand that. Protesters could be heard chanting, "Open up Michigan." At one point, there was a "lock her up" chant in reference to Whitmer. We can get this rally done and stay within social distancing guidelines. Maria Sheridan, a Michigan Conservative Coalition co-founder, said in a statement ahead of the rally, "Citizens are frankly tired of being treated like babies as adults. We now know what needs to be done to stay safe." Also, another like aspect of this too is like there's all these people that are now out of work. There's food banks are starting to like run low, and people are like in lines trying to get food and not able to. I also heard that the like all these small business loans the government were like giving out, like they're gone now. Then also the Republicans were trying to push an additional, I believe it was like $250 billion additional funds in there, and it essentially got blocked by the Democrats because they were wanting to throw in kind of like social justice like things in there instead of like just getting stuff out to businesses. They're like trying to put all this, like, what is it, the like never let a crisis go unused or whatever. So that's just, I mean, that's terrible. Speaking to NBC affiliate Wood of Grand Rapids, one woman attended suggesting she didn't entirely trust social distancing recommendations being made by the so-called scientists. See, they try to like I'm saying, they try to, she said the so-called scientists, like Dr. Anthony Fauci, adding that she believes very strongly in herd immunity, which I have seen things from other doctors as well, saying that herd immunity very well could have prevented the prolonging spread of this as well. Then also there's other reports saying that like we may get like a second wave of this or whatever. Then like next winter it may come again and we'll be like on lockdown until all winter, until March or whatever, which it's not going to happen. If you have, granted, that's bad, but also that's terrible. They keep saying like the cure shouldn't be worse than the disease. All right. Tom Norton, a Republican running to unseat Representative Justin Amash, who left the Republican Party last year, told Wood that the cure is worse than disease, like I just said, pointing to the impact of the shutdowns on small businesses and the potential for rising rates of depression and suicide. I've heard people saying like, oh, it's just small businesses, and like they assume it's like a couple of handful like mom and pop stores. Like small businesses are like roughly like 50% of the economy in the U.S. So if you kill that, it's going to be, if this keeps going on, this is going to be like, we're already past like 2008 recession numbers. Like 2008 recession had a total of 15 million people unemployed over the span of 18 months. We beat that in 3 weeks with like 16 or 17 million. The additional 5 million is up to like 22 million now. This is like incredibly bad for like Americans as well. Like all the people that are like out of work, and if they happen to be the breadwinners of the household or even like half the income, that's going to affect, you know, a multiple of that. So it's 22 million times, you know, 2 if they're part of the household. If they have multiple kids, then by 3 or 4. So it could be potentially affecting up to, you know, a third of the total population of the U.S. The organizers' Facebook page was flooded with comments both in support and against the protests. Can people please stay in their cars if they go, and if they get out, to wear masks and practice social distancing? One Facebook user posted, "The statists will use any excuse to discredit the protests, so please don't give them a freebie. The guys on the steps of the Capitol are putting the protests backwards." Another wrote, "Now we're going to be portrayed as right extremists. Thanks a lot, jerk. Stay in your car and put the rifles away. You're going to ruin this for everyone." At our Wednesday press conference, Whitmer directly addressed the protesters, saying she understands their frustration and is okay with people taking out their anger on her, but she mentioned healthcare workers and those who have lost loved ones to the virus, and said those protesting need to understand how easily the disease can spread, and that those who die from it often have to be alone at the end. Then also the ones that die from it are usually the same groups that are for any virus or flu is the most at risk. The elders, the immune compromised. Because we had, like I said, we have these numbers, but 2 years ago we had like 80,000 for just the flu, the seasonal flu. So then people are going to argue like, well, it's so low because social distancing, but they also had projected like the 2.5 million, and that was also including social distancing in their projections as well. I respect your opinions, Whitmer said, adding, "I just urge you don't put yourself at risk and don't put others at risk either." She says she was really disappointed to see people congregating outside and not wearing masks. She also pointed to the Confederate flags that were waved at the rally and mentioned that one individual was even passing out candy to the children. Additionally, she said untold numbers of people may have touched gas pumps to get to Lansing, potentially spreading an infection. There's also other articles coming out that like they're doing like certain like antibody research and like doing plasma, and they're like realizing that like a much larger amount of people actually have had this, contracted this, and it's like either the asymptomatic or just like mild conditions. So like this number is probably like widely undervalued, or like it's under that, so the percentages are like way off. "We know this rally endangered people," she said, adding that such activity will put more people at risk and could prolong how long we need to be in this posture. She said it was a sad irony that the protest may necessitate a lengthening of the stay-at-home order. Was it Lieutenant Brian Olisk with the Michigan State Police told NBC News that between 3,000 to 4,000 people attended the event, and for the majority the protest is peaceful at this time and has been, adding that most have been following the social distancing. Only one arrest has been made so far. No violations of the executive order have been issued. He also said protesters should not block any significant roadways near the hospital, as posts on social media showed one area hospital being clogged by cars. Local public transit announced on Twitter its service was disrupted downtown and in nearby areas because of the gridlock, and that it was unable to accommodate life-sustaining and medically necessary trips to or from these areas. The protests came after Whitmer last week signed one of the nation's most restrictive orders aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19 in Michigan, one of the nation's hardest hit states. More than 27,000 cases have been confirmed in the state, with at least 1,700 deaths in Wayne County, home to Detroit. 820 people have died. Per a Johns Hopkins University tracker, Wayne County has more deaths than any county in the U.S. outside of New York State. The order contained several provisions that were unpopular with some Michiganders, such as barring in-state travel to vacation residents and a tightening of business restrictions that included large stores having to close areas dedicated to carpeting, flooring, furniture, gardening, centers, plant nurseries, or paint. State Republican lawmakers said the order unnecessarily curtailed freedoms and harmed businesses. But it was difficult to completely divorce the backlash from partisan politics, as Whitmer, a Democrat, had in recent weeks become a visible leader among the governors responding to the coronavirus outbreak, garnering attention from Joe Biden as a possible running mate and tangling with President Donald Trump. The pushback has been fanned by prominent national conservatives and elected leaders, and some misinformation about the order has circulated. On Monday, Whitmer spent much of her news conference addressing the backlash, saying every action she's been taking is centered on flattening the state's curve of infections. So how long is it going to take to flatten it? Because they were saying it'd be a week, 2 weeks, it'd be Easter, a month. No, it's going to be like 8 weeks now. Oh, it could be summer. It could be to the end of summer. Because they keep saying things and they keep pushing and pushing and pushing it. And people, like I said, there's like close to 20% of Americans now that and that's just the people, unemployment is calculated by people that are unemployed and they're actively searching for jobs. If they give up searching for jobs, then they aren't counted as unemployed anymore. So there could be even more people that are unemployed but not technically counted as unemployed. Then I think there's other areas too that maybe New York, and I think Italy as well, people can't get a hold of food or resources, and so they're starting to loot places to get what they need. The latest order was signed with the aim of curbing foot traffic in stores and preventing the outbreak, focused in the state's southeastern corner from spreading quickly through the northern and more rural parts of the state, where the health system is not well equipped for a major outbreak. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be angry. Whitmer added, if it makes you feel better to direct it at me, that's okay too. I got thick skin and I'm always going to defend your right to free speech. In a recent court filing, Whitmer acknowledged the right to protest amid the stay-at-home order. She acknowledged it. Speaking with NBC's Today Show on Wednesday, Whitmer said more robust testing is needed in her state before things can begin to be opened up amid outrage over the shutdown of golf and gardening. Whitmer pointed to snow falling across Michigan Wednesday, adding that a couple more weeks is not going to meaningfully impact people's abilities to do so because the weather was already playing its part. I think the huge issue people are having is destroying the economy, the jobs, people's livelihoods, and also the part that government is restricted in its powers, what it can do to people. And then a lot of these state governments are just trampling over or outside their actual rights, whether it be through the U.S. Constitution or their own state's constitution. The Michigan brouhaha comes amid a larger national debate over how to reopen parts of the economy while keeping the outbreak at bay. In the Northeast, 7 states have banded together to come up with a regional plan for doing so, as have the 3 states along the Pacific Coast. Trump, meanwhile, has launched a task force to come up with such plans and work alongside state leaders. Asked about Whitmer's orders on Monday, Trump said it is a very strong position to take, but they're making a lot of progress in Michigan, so let's see how it all works out. Michigan isn't the only place where such protests have taken place this week. On Monday, about 100 protesters gathered outside the Ohio State House in Columbus to push for Republican Governor Mike DeWine to reopen the state. And in Raleigh, more than 100 protesters gathered to protest Democratic North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper's stay-at-home order. At least one protester was charged with violating Cooper's order. That event was organized by a group called Reopen MC. North Carolina. Some people want to completely obliterate these restrictions, Cooper said at a Monday press conference. It would be a catastrophe. No, they just don't want the government to start acting tyrannical and authoritative and dictatorship like they have been. They give them like, because some of these governors have gotten like a taste of a little bit of power and they've gone nuts with it. But luckily, I think as the South Dakota governor, I keep mentioning things, and she was like, we strongly urge people to do this, but like as government, we can't force people to do this, and that's the correct way for it to be done. And I believe this one happened. This was updated a little bit later, it seems. Or it came out after this one. Whitmer, large protests could extend the virus lockdown. Hours after hundreds of demonstrators flocked to Michigan to show their displeasure with Governor Gretchen Whitmer's orders to keep people at home and businesses locked during the coronavirus outbreak, the Democrat fired back. Speaking to reporters Wednesday, Whitmer said she was disappointed about the protest and that the large crowd was only going to make things worse. We know that this rally endangered people. All you know. You're absolutely certain. This kind of activity will put more people at risk, the governor said. Whitmer added that the sad irony about the demonstration was that it could have created the need to extend Michigan's stay-at-home orders. See, people are having issues too because they're saying that like going out and buying weed is essential, going out and getting a lottery ticket is essential, but going out and like mowing your grass and doing like certain things like that are like not essential. Like they're picking and choosing what they want to do. If it's something that helps, like lottery tickets, that's essential. There's also certain states are trying to restrict. They're trying to like restrict certain like alcohol and liquors. There's some places trying to say that like gun sales and stuff aren't essential. But I mean, it's a huge. 35,000 to 22 million, which is just terrible. It's terrible all around. Let me know what you think about this entire situation. I mean, it sounds like they didn't. They said they had one arrest, but they're trying to say that wasn't related to that, so I'm not entirely sure about that. But no matter how contagious something is and how deadly it may be, people's civil liberties still can't be encroached on by the government for no reason. But, well, if you like this, you can give me a like. If you really liked it and you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe. If you're on Facebook, you can like the page and follow me there as well. So I'm kind of curious what you think about this whole thing. I mean, there needs to be certain things to help with the spread, but you can't just destroy people's, civil liberties. And like the Bill of Rights are in place for the specific reason to keep government restrained. I don't know if it's maybe like the younger generation isn't as informed about this thing, but then again, I see like older people, like an older bunch of Karens too, like snitching on people. Like if you are snitching on somebody because they're not practicing social distancing or like certain businesses and stuff are open, it's just, I'm not going to get into that. All right, well, peace. I'll see you later.